Okay, so I think we are live. There was some technical issues, which pretty much every week I have technical issues. I just need to get better about pretty much everything that I do. I'm always been kind of a late person, generally speaking, but it would help if I had just like a studio that was dedicated that I could have everything ready to go. As of right now, I have to kind of set everything back up. Kind of just jabbering right now, waiting for everybody to hopefully start to file in here. Like I said, I started a little bit later than usual and still trying to figure out what time slot that works the best. It's not been a super heavy week as far as camera news goes, but there is a very interesting, let's say, rumor coming from Sony Alpha Rumors about a new A9 Mark III. And they're calling it a wild rumor. And if Sony Alpha Rumors is calling it a wild rumor, then, well, maybe that's all it is. That being said, it'd be nice to go over it and see what happens. Excuse me. I want to make sure that. Sorry. Yeah, that was random. But getting a call back here, I thought it was my phone. It's not my phone, but I thought it was emergency. It's kind of storming outside. So yeah, I apologize about that break. But yeah, it could just be a wild rumor about the Sony the Sony A9 Mark III. But it is interesting, and I do not think that it is so far off that it doesn't make sense that this could be the specs. And so I want to go over the specs a little bit here. We'll go over some of just kind of the rumors that I missed. There's some things about a new Nikon camera possibly coming out, but it's not the Nikon Z6 Mark III. Unfortunately, we will also just go over the different rumor sites and we'll just kind of, sometimes we just refresh and we get very lucky. I actually refreshed these not too long ago, so more than likely we're not going to get lucky, but we could, and sometimes that's fun to do. So if you are here and you're watching, hit that like button. This gets it out to more people, and possibly we can start having an engaging conversation, but we shall see. All right, let's start off. Let's just go ahead and hopefully people will start falling in, and we'll just check the rumor sites and see if we get lucky. This is Canon rumors. So this is kind of interesting here. This is a CR2, which is meaning that it's a pretty good substantial rumor. It doesn't mean that they regard it as fact, but usually CR2s happen. I'll just say that. But this is the Canon RF 200 to 500 f4 image stabilized USM. Has been rumored for some time now and is definitely in the pipeline. This will be the replacement for the highly regarded EF 200 to 400 f4L. With the 1.4 crop. So I wonder if this will have that adapting crop or if they're just going to make you want to buy that separately. Okay, well, I just should keep reading. It says there will not be a built-in teleconverter in the RF version, which will reduce weight, size, and complexity. Sadly, its emission won't reduce the price. That sucks. Yeah, I figured this is going to be a stupid lens as far as price goes. We have been told that Canon RF 200 to 500 f4 IS USM will be announced in Q4 of 2023 with a price tag of $15,999 US. So like $1 billion Canadian, as Gerald Poland would say. Sorry. The Canon RF was announced in May 2013 for a price of $11,800. So if you use one of those inflation calculators, the price of the 200 500 is pretty much the same in today's dollars, which doesn't make it any less painful. Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. But you know, the other issue is too, I don't know how many. I'm trying to project. I think there would be more competition nowadays for just what you're able to do with your lenses. So yeah, there's that. Canon is still having issues meeting demand for certain lenses, such as the RF 35 1.8. and the 100 to 300 f 2.8. These production issues don't seem to be delaying announcements, but they're definitely frustrating potential customers. See, I wonder if at this point Canon's just protecting their margins a lot, and they're somewhat, because I don't know how the supply issues are really still affecting things at this point. I could kind of see this being Canon's way of just making almost somewhat of an ordering on demand type scenario for these things. They're not holding a big back catalog. They're just, wait to see demand and to say, okay, people have gotten used to waiting for these type of cameras and these type of lenses rather over the last few years, and we're not going to make a bunch of something that is going to cost us a bunch of money, so we will just basically make it when you order it. And I'd be interested to see if that's kind of what they're doing more. I don't see many other things having too big of production issues at this point. But it seems like Canon and cameras are. So maybe it is just actually a real thing going on, still supply chain stuff backed up, or maybe it's just Canon protecting their bottom line, which I can't blame them for that. All right, let me go back over here to the chat really quick and see if anybody's jumping in. No, not as of yet. That is okay. Like I said, I'm starting late. A lot of people catch this on the replay, and they're going to watch me run off the camera. Luckily, I was wearing pants. No, it's funny because it's kind of could be a joke that's true sometimes. Just kidding. Or am I? Okay, so let's go back to Sony Alpha rumors, see if we get lucky here. I just see a cat. Nothing special here. I'm going to go down here to the other lens. So there's the first rumors about a new GM lens coming along with an A7C Mark II. Or it says, not sure if it's A7C Mark II or A7R will be announced both on the same day or not. That doesn't make much sense to me. The source didn't want to get into any trouble and therefore didn't share the specs of the lens, but he said the lens is ideal as a gimbal lens, which leads me to believe this might be the new 16 to 35 GM2. The only issue that I see with that is, are they going to somehow pull off an internal zoom with that? Because a lot of times gimbal lenses, you want an internal zoom. I mean, not that you have to, but if you're saying like, oh, this is ideal for gimbals, most of the time to me, that means that it's like fixed. And that would be very impressive if they could pull off a 16 to 35 that's like internal zoom that's not huge. But Sony's been kind of working some magic with their lenses, but we shall see. I'm getting some storms, so if my internet starts breaking out or if it starts lightning like crazy, then I may just like call it early. I may wind up calling it early anyways because there's not too much news, unfortunately. But I want to show up, it's like I want to at least interact and hang out with everybody. If one person shows up or 10 people show up, it doesn't much matter. A lot of people catch this on the replay. Hopefully you're here catching it on the replay. If you are, hit that like button. Maybe consider subscribing. Really appreciate it. I'm trying to figure out, and not to go too far on a side tangent, but at the same time, we're kind of being even more relaxed than usual. I'm trying to figure out what's the best direction to take this channel. I love the live streaming elements. I'm also building like a travel channel, and that's taking a lot of my creative juices into that. And I'm not seeing a lot of camera news, and I don't want to just make videos completely just with the news cycle. I like to do that, but I like to interact more and do it live. And I've thought about doing it where, hey, a camera news story, if it comes out right away, I don't have to wait until Saturdays, which is our normal days. I can just go cover it right away. But sometimes I do feel like I have a little bit better of a take once I've able to absorb some of the information. So I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing to do or not. The other thing I'm trying to figure out, and I'm talking about this stuff because if you're here and you're watching, maybe you give me some feedback of what you would like to see. I would like to start somewhat branching out slightly, not away from cameras completely, but things that are camera adjacent. That way, if camera news is slow like it is this week, I don't feel like I'm getting on here and talking about something that or not rather talking about much that would interest people. So I'd like to figure out if there's something that could kind of go alongside the camera news that could kind of supplement it and, can be moved around. Like I was thinking, possibly talking slightly about the Oppenheimer movie. Granted, I've never seen it yet, but it was filmed on a Sony Venice 8K. I think they said Sony Venice camera, but they did it with film, so that doesn't make much sense because I would think the Sony Venice would be digital, but this is an 8K film camera. Does that make sense for everybody? But it's all shot in IMAX, which is nuts and super cool. I want to see it. I hear it's great. But I would like to maybe start talking slightly about, if it's movies that come into like the camera atmosphere, we can talk about that. If it's other types of technology, maybe go that way as well. So anyways, I'm open to ideas. Drop in the comment section below, or if you're here watching live, hit in the chat and we can talk and figure that out. All right, this is kind of interesting. DJI announced the new Osmo Action 4 camera, and Sony still doesn't want to play a role in this segment. I don't blame them, to be honest. I don't know how big that segment is. GoPro was such a huge company. I mean, it's like such a shell of its old evaluation. It was like, it used to be a darling stock, and now it's like worth maybe 5% of what it was at its peak. Let's see if I can check that. Why not? So GoPro stock. So if you back out, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Yeah, so it peaked out in 2014. It looks like at 86, almost 80, 86.97. And now, I mean, basically it's just, I mean, even during like all that extra stimulus that they threw into the economy, it didn't do much. And it bottomed out, of course, at the bottom of 2020, or right at that beginning of 2020 at the start. But I mean, it's basically back to pre-2020 levels, but that is $3. So it's literally, like I said, a close to 5% of what it used to be at its peak. And so why would Sony get into this industry right now? And I'm not saying they're the only players, but the fact that GoPro is what you think about when you think of action cams, and it's so low, like why would Sony jump into that market? I personally just do not see it. Now, I can understand you can want one. It says, as a professional photographer and amateur photographer, I would actually love to get an APS-C or even a full-frame action camera, something super rugged and small I could always carry with me, but with still high-quality enough video. Pity Sony doesn't listen to me. So, I mean, I think he's being somewhat facetious. Obviously, he's being facetious here, but I just don't think it's a good, smart business play. Because you think of GoPro, you think of action cams, even though this is DJI. But DJI is kind of already competing in that space at this point. And the biggest, I think, hindrance to this, obviously, besides just smartphones, which are the biggest thing that's like destroyed the action cam market. But besides that is the 3D cameras or the 360 cameras, the Action 360 and things of that nature. To me, those are so much more diversifiable. I mean, they're not going to look as good a lot of times. You're not going to have a superior image quality, but to me, a lot of times when you have an action cam, you're just getting unique shots, or at least the way I use it. I like to just get a quick shot that normally we wouldn't see just from somebody holding a camera or a regular drone. You just want a different, unique shot, and a 360 cam just gives so much more flexibility and uniqueness in your shot than just a regular action cam. So that's interesting. And the other thing that they had is the 360 Go, which is that literally the tiny camera. So to me, yeah, Sony needs to stay out of that. But DJI released their Osmo Action 4. The only video I saw about this was Casey from Camera Conspiracies, and he didn't even have it at the time. Funny story why he didn't have it. But I don't know if I'm super impressed by what they're offering. But I don't have a big opinion about it one way or the other. All right, this is going to be a main story here, so I'm going to go ahead and click off Sony Alpha Rumors at this point and go back to the chat. All right. And then we're going to hit up, we're going to go ahead and hit up Nikon Rumors. See if we get lucky. Come on, get lucky. Nope. Just promotions in Japan. If you're here watching from Japan. Oh man, I wish I knew how to speak Japanese. I was about to say arigato, which I think is thank you, hello. I don't know why they're trying to sell me underwear. I'm just saying. I swear. It's not for me. I stand it up earlier and you like see you. Never mind. Get it? Because I said earlier never mind. If you're joining live, you're probably like, what is going on? The one thing I do want to cover on Nikon that I know how I can go ahead to is okay, so it says this is different, but Nikon announcement next week, not about new products, so not for us. But there was an interesting thing talking about. Okay, so here we are. Nikon ZF camera was listed earlier today on Nikon Direct Japan website. So basically that means that I think this camera is happening at this point. And I think that that's kind of the camera that they're suspecting is going to be the next camera. I forgot to take my dog's leash off of her, so that's fun. I forgot a lot of things today. But to be fair, there hasn't been much going on as far as camera news goes. This entry was posted in the Nikon ZF and tagged black Nikon ZF camera, full frame Nikon ZF camera, Nikon retro full frame. Now, he's been talking a while, or Nikon Rumors has been talking a while, saying that the Nikon Z6 is not happening, that the two full frame cameras are coming out is the Nikon Z8, and I believe this is the one that he's saying is going to be the next one. Not the Z6 Mark III isn't going to happen, but it's not happening this year, which is unfortunate. All right, I'm getting a lot of storms going on. There's lightning and stuff happening outside my window, so I might kind of speed things along since it is late and we're not getting too many people interacting right now. Let me go to the comments. If you are here, you're watching, hit that like button. I really appreciate it. If you're watching after the fact, I always very much appreciate it that you're just here spending your time with me. Whether you can stay for a little bit, a long time, either way, whatever you spend with me, I appreciate. Always watch time is king of everything. So if you can't watch the full thing, but you can just let it run in the background, do that. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. It's all appreciated and it helps giving me motivation to keep everything going, because I enjoy doing the live streams with everybody, and I hope the camera news will pick up, and I hope I'll get a little bit better of a rhythm going on, and then that way we can kind of get back to the way we were covering before, because we were having pretty big live streams here not too long ago. So yeah. Ulanzi Cooling Fan, this is Fuji Rumors. Again, nothing big right here, right now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Mirrorless Rumors, and then I will go over the main topic today and get out of here, just because I'm hearing lightning and thunder. I'm just afraid that I'm going to get electrocuted. No, I'm not as afraid of that as I'm afraid of electricity going out, because that happens a lot sometimes. Okay, so these are all old. We went over this last week, or all the main stuff, and we just talked about this ZF leak. I will be interested to hear about the ZF. Somebody I didn't get to watch the full video, but Simon, the Ordinary Filmmaker, really funny guy, really good. We never met. He's from Canada, but we interact back and forth on the phone. I've talked to him and been on his show, and he's been on my channel as well. And really good guy overall. I know some people get up frustrated because he's so hot with the news that he might cover something and people say, oh, you covered this and it never happened. But I think that's kind of the point. He's a rumor site, and when you're, or a rumor channel primarily, and when you're covering the rumors, some things don't happen, and he's doing things with such hustle. He's not trying to be necessarily an investigative reporter into these things. He's just trying to be, first to the microphone and to the camera, and usually he does that very well. So I appreciate him and his humor in general. But he had some thumbnail that I saw saying that a stacked sensor, and I'm trying to find that news story so I could look over it, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not sure if he's saying this camera is going to be a stacked sensor, but if it was, I don't believe it. It'd be nuts if it was, though. If Nikon had, like they said, like so this is 46 megapixels, only $2,000. So this wasn't it. He was saying, I thought it was some Nikon camera that he was trying to say was going to be a stacked sensor. It was like going to be like $2,000. If that's the case, that is silly. If it's really going to happen, which is cool if things are going down. I just don't believe it. I don't believe that's happening right now. Not when the closest other stacked sensor is like $3,900. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to go back to the share and see if anybody is commenting. I always like to see if people are commenting, but no one is. If you're here and you're watching, hit that like button. It gets it out to more people, and we can possibly have a conversation, and it just helps after the fact as well. But I'm going to go ahead and go to the main topic today because we are having storms, and it is a little bit later in the day. And so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go to the main story and get that out of the way. Appreciate everybody that's been here or everybody that's watching after the fact. So we have some wild rumors coming from Sony Alpha Rumors about a new possible specs of the A9 Mark III. And they're actually saying that it may even not be called the A9 Mark III, but essentially I think it's going to be taking the role of the A9 Mark III. What is kind of interesting about this is there's been some debate on whether or not it really makes sense for this camera to still come out, considering that they have the Alpha 1. So do they really need like another high action professional sports photography camera? I don't know. I guess that's up for the consumer to behold. But these specs, if real, some specs in here are pretty incredible. And yeah, I'll let you make the decision for yourself. But he's calling this a super wild rumor. So completely unsubstantiated, but we're talking cameras here, and the A9 III could be an impressive camera. And I don't think that these specs are so far off that it doesn't make sense for this to be a thing. So let me go ahead and go over to Sony Alpha Rumors, and we will go over and discuss it. So it says, super wild rumor, first Sony A9 III specs, 29 megapixel ultra fast sensor and body with integrated grip. See, I didn't even pay attention to that. Oh wow, an integrated grip. So that's interesting. So it sounds like if they're going to do that, then they're going like the R3 route. Or the R1 eventually, I'm assuming, when it comes out. This is totally unverified rumor and comes from an anonymous source. This means there's high chance that the rumor might be wrong. All I know from trusted sources is that the A9 III is definitely coming in November, January timeframe, and that it's going to be the fastest camera on the market, especially if you throw it. Just kidding. But they shared no detailed specs so far. So just for the sake of fun, clickbait, LOL. So I'm going to have some clickbait on this video as well, and discussion. Read this spec list and tell me what you think about it. I was briefed on features of the A9 III. The name isn't final, which is interesting. So that means that maybe with that integrated body grip, they're changing things up. But it will be marketed specifically to professional sports shooters and will not replace the A1 as Sony's flagship. Video specs will be similar to the A7 IV, no 8K, no internal RAW, but will feature several high frame rate modes, lots of new pro features. So yeah, if it's going to be a 29 megapixels, which are talk about, there's no possibility of 8K. I don't know if it goes fully 7K. I think 33 megapixels is full 7K. But yeah, a completely new body with built-in vertical grip. Will use a 2x FZ100 batteries that can be independently swapped without turning the camera off, unlike the sled from current battery grip. Additional custom buttons and switches. Sources suggest that both top dials will have lower control rings and one will be customizable. A 3.4-inch tilting ultra bright dial touch screen that will allow use with gloves and when wet. That's interesting and
surprising, I guess. It's very good, especially if you're going to be high action photography, and considering that this will be made with the Olympics in mind, that's going to be another thing. Dual CF Express Type A/SD slots, and compatible with saving directly to SSD via USB-C. So I mean, that's not impressive to me. I mean, SSD via USB. It would be cool if they had some form of internal memory uh, that would not brick your camera, because SSDs, it is possible for them to eventually go out, and if they went out and then your camera was useless, that would suck. But if it's just kind of like the DJI, where they have them in there, like the drones, they'll have like I think 16 gigs or 32 gigs depending on the drone, and you just allows you to have it in there if you run your card fills up on you. So it's a good little backup, and it'd be cool to have something like that. But this is nothing new here. Surely it would be USB-C. I would be shocked if it's slower than that. I don't even know how they could do it with a slower USB. Anyways, a source that says cutting edge sensor cleaning and dust water prevention system will be featured, but details are still very secret even within Sony. Ooh. New Bion sensor processor to support enhanced autofocus, 29 megapixel sensor with a global electric shutter with no mechanical shutter. So this is interesting, and it's kind of confusing because obviously there would be no mechanical shutter. There would be no need, but I don't think there's going to be any need for mechanical shutter anyways, with as fast as their electronic stack sensors have been. So to me, to have a global shutter at this point, I don't know if it's 100% needed. I really don't. And maybe it is for certain things. I know it's kind of always been that fabled thing that people have dreamed of and hoped for. Said, when's the global shutter coming? But I think at this point, a lot of people agree that a global shutter may be somewhat redundant. And I personally would like to see other technology come to a sensor that can improve, dynamic range and low light, because I think they're pretty fast already, and I don't know if a global shutter will really stop banding any more than you would need. I would think that a global shutter would be needed, like if you're like, like super crazy high action, like you're like trying to do like this ultra slow mo where you're trying to catch, like where they do like the bullet cams and things like that, where they're like, just have those crazy type of cameras. But I don't think a global shutter matters too much for regular sports. I don't think many people are vying for it. I mean, for example, Frono's Photo, he'll be taking baseball shots with the electronic sensor and the R3. That's a stack sensor. Um, it's not a global sensor, and it doesn't look like the ball is doing any kind of weird warping or anything. And that ball's going, it's a tiny ball going somewhere around, upwards of 100-ish or more miles per hour. And if and the bat's being swung at a crazy thing, and there's no bowing there, I don't necessarily think that it's 100% needed. Anyways, 120 frames per second, full res, Heffy, I think that was what we call them. I do like these files personally. It's kind of a good little halfway point between RAW and JPEG. For 2-second burst, limited by sensor memory. Sensor memory would limit that? That doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, I can see camera memory, but sensor memory, unless it's made a different way. You do have RAM in there. But I see that's another thing. That's why, to me, it's very limiting for them to go with the CF Express Type A slot, because it's going to eventually slow down their cameras. Because if you have to have a buffer, you're always going to probably have to have some form of a buffer. But if you have a really fast CF Express Type B card, which they're faster and larger sizes, then you can clear out that buffer much faster, and you can hold down that trigger much longer. Source hinted that 240 frames reduced megapixel mode has been proposed to counter the Z9. So yeah, that's cool, but I don't think it's that great. 60 frames per second full res Heffy / compressed RAW with large buffer. So this could be great. Compressed RAW. That's kind of how Sony's been doing their game for a while. They'll kind of advertise it as like 60 frames per second, but then you go into the detail, it's compressed RAW. And if you go to like uncompressed RAW or compressed lossless RAW, it drops it all the way down to 30 frames. And Sony's kind of been doing that even with the Alpha One. If you really like look at the Nikon Z9, and the Z8, it's getting about the same speed when you go to uncompressed RAW, even faster sometimes. 5.76 million dot HDR EVF with 240 hertz dynamic refresh, which is will vary the refresh rate for battery savings. So yeah, nothing particularly special about that. Car and motorcycle AF tracking mode. Okay. 240 autofocusing calculations per second, 4 times the A9 Mark II. I wonder what that is in comparison to the Alpha 1. I think the Alpha 1 does 120 AF calculations per second, so that would be twice the speed, I believe. 2200 AF points, 100% coverage. So usually Sony's been hovering around like the 90, I think 4% coverage. So having 100% is better than 94. 960 frames. I mean, if you're catching something so far on the side, though, more than likely your composition is just atrocious. So I don't know if it 100% matters. 960 frames cropped 1080p. So, Casey, if he's going to get this to vlog, would love to see that number in there. 280 frames per second oversample 1080p. So if it's oversampling fully from a 29 megapixel sensor, that would be like an oversampled 6.9-ish K. So that would be pretty crazy 1080p and be awesome. And then 240 frames per second cropped 4K S&Q. So why would it be cropped? I don't know. To me, it's like, do we need to crop it now? I mean, can we not? Are we not past these things? Yeah. Enhanced voice to text, metadata writing, and built-in GPS. I'm not going to say all that stuff. Improved Wi-Fi speeds for port, internal long-range Wi-Fi antenna, 5G based tether port. So yeah, these are obviously just wild speculations. To me, though, there's nothing that stands out to me saying that this is super crazy impressive besides the idea of a global shutter. But I don't know if it's 100% necessary. But some people are going to probably argue with me. Drop in the comment section below and let me know. Give me your arguments of why I'm wrong and a global shutter is still needed. I'm just personally under the belief that a global shutter, I don't know if it's as needed as we once thought it was, and I would rather see other types of technology come for better low light, better dynamic range, and such. But hey, maybe this is the only way for them to take it to a faster range. But I just think I would believe that it would take more, processing to do something with a global shutter because you're just reading everything at once. But I could be wrong. I really don't know. I don't want to just presume. Let me go ahead and go back to the main screen here. So drop in the comment section below and let me know, do you believe these specs of the A9 Mark III? Do you think this sounds about right? Kind of like I think it sounds about right. There's nothing outlandish there, but there's really nothing supporting this rumor. So as of right now, it is a super wild rumor. But drop in the comment section below and let me know, do you think this camera even makes sense? And do you think the specs like this make sense for a global shutter? And what are your spec predictions? So because maybe your spec predictions are about as reliable as these sources are at this point. Drop in the comment section below and let me know all that. Okay, let me go back here to the comments, see if we're getting anybody chatting. We are getting quite a few people that are listening, and so I appreciate you here listening. If you are here listening, throw a thumbs up and this gets it out to more people. And sometimes it helps because some people will jump in here and we'll have an engaging conversation, which is fun. But either way, it always helps out on the after the fact. So if you're here and you're able to talk, that's great. If you're not, a lot of times people are, I know me, a lot of times what I'm doing with YouTube is I use it almost like a podcasting situation. I have YouTube Premium, so I don't even have to watch videos. Most of the time I'll just turn them off and I'll just listen to them. So I use I listen to like a lot of podcasts and, science-based stuff and all that type of things. And so I a lot of times I don't even listen and I'm not sitting here trying to type and interact with people. So the point I'm making about that is I understand where people are coming from and I appreciate anybody that's just listening. But yeah. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it short because it doesn't look like many people are talking and there's still some storms going on just a bit. And it's already kind of getting fairly late. And I have a 2-year-old that's waiting to go to sleep for me to shut up.
But I appreciate everybody that has showed up. I hope that you have enjoyed this smaller version of the live stream. Oh, we do have somebody talking. Okay, so Rick Mentor, I want to say that's his name. Uh, do not understand all these specifications, but the 9 is a fantastic camera. I'd love to own one. Yeah, I mean, depending on who you are, and what you're shooting, then it could definitely make sense for you. And the thing is, the A9 Mark II, I think you can find some really good deals on it, and it's it holds up. It's an older sensor at this point. Of course, it's not going to match the Alpha 1. But if you're already in the Sony system and you want a sports and wildlife photography camera, I think it's one of the best bets that you have. Because a lot of times it's 24 megapixels or something around that range, and you're shooting that many shots, and you don't want to necessarily have a million different shots that you have to go through. Or rather, you don't want your file sizes to be ridiculous, then the A9 would be a good one. And Rick, I don't understand all the specs either. I'm reading them, and I'm understanding some of it just because the nature of doing this for so long that I've picked up on some of the lingo. But some of it, it's a little too high jargon for me because I'm not a 9 shooter. I mean, I never understand everything, but uh, but uh, but yeah, I mean, some of this is new technology as well. So some of it's new technology, so I wouldn't know, and most people wouldn't know. So you're not alone, Rick. No problems there. You don't have to be technically savvy to be able to take great pictures, and I'm sure you can take some great pictures. Or if you're videography, I'm sure you can get some good composition and tell a good story. Uh, okay, so Rick says I shoot event and then interior deco. So I don't I don't know. See, I don't understand that lingo completely. To be real, I know that what events are. I'm thinking events and interior deco would be like interior decoration. Um, uh, do you feel the need for a higher megapixel with interior decoration, or do you think that the lower megapixel count helps with being able to get lower light, um, lower light pictures? I know that there's kind of a back and forth on, people say, oh, you have smaller pixels and less, noticeable noise. But generally speaking, I do think that lower megapixels tend to be able to have better low light. So what I guess my point is, what do you prefer? Do you like having the higher megapixels that would hold up in interior? And if you're shooting events, then obviously you want the speed. But it sounds like an Alpha 1 would be perfect for you, but I don't know. Alpha 1s are ridiculously priced as well. So I'm thinking that you may shoot Sony just based upon your previous comment here. But I would be curious to hear what you do shoot. Um, I mean, like what you shoot with, like what brand, and what do you prefer higher? Or do you find that do you already have enough I guess, do you need these type of specs? Would this type of specs help you out, or do you think you would rather switch it out for something else? The specs could be really good. An A9 is really good, but I don't know if it's necessary. A little more information if you have it, if you can, but if you can't, I understand. Like I said, I was kind of wrapping it up, but I appreciate the interaction because that's always the best is when you can have some good interaction with everybody. I think that that's definitely the most enjoyable part about doing a live stream is that we have back and forth. I am so confused about where to go for a time slot. I really like I used to do I really liked Friday nights. But David Osler was doing Friday nights forever, and then he kind of stopped and started back. So I just don't know where he's at right now. I don't want to try to step on him because, first off, he has a much bigger channel, and I enjoy his live streams too. So I don't want to, try to compete in that same time slot, and I'd rather just, catch a different one. So I don't know if Saturday nights are going to be the night. I was doing Saturday during the day, but that's kind of becoming harder because I'm watching my son on Saturdays because that's a day that my wife works.
So yeah, we're just trying to work everything out. Let me know in the comment section below if you're watching this after the fact. What time slots are working for you. Do you like this time slot? The only problem I have with it, I enjoy Saturday nights. The only problem I have with it is that, a couple years ago, or not a couple years ago, last year, I was having, pretty big stuff coming, or a decent sized crowd joining live. But then when Saturday Night Football happened, it just died. So I think that's going to be coming up here fairly soon. You're getting into preseason, so I don't know if this time slot's going to work for long. All right, so Rick says he shoots apartments for sale and that sort of thing. Furniture, more pixels are always good. Have to crop. 36 megapixels would be good enough. My back is hurting is why I'm home this evening. Working photographers work on the weekends. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it makes most sense when you're doing weekends, especially on like apartments and things of that nature, because a lot of other people are working throughout the week. So, what he's saying, generally speaking, even if you're doing events, well, first off, events a lot of times are on the weekends. Like some of the events that I've shot with videography have been on the weekend, but even photo shoots and portraits, a lot of times you're trying to make room for people and meet them where they're at. And a lot of times people are working, like a 9 to 5, or at least somebody in the family is working 9 to 5. And that basically only gives the weekend for them to be free enough for you to be able to, if you're doing real estate photography, get into their home with them. Well, I mean, sometimes I would think that you could maybe get into their home differently, but some people don't want you just to walk around their home without them there. But for events, 100%, and portraits and things like that, you're like he says, you're going to be working on the weekends. So if you want to do this primarily full time, know that that's the case. Yeah. So Rick is saying this evening, this time of the year, weddings and other party like events. Yeah, that is big at this time of year. I was supposed to do last week. I had somebody cancel. I was doing family portraits for somebody, and I've done some family portrait stuff, but not that much. So I was interested to do it, but it wound up falling through. And the reason I was doing the family portrait though was because it was a wedding. The person was going to a wedding and they were all dressed up, and they never had family portraits, so they were hoping while they were dressed up to go ahead and get the family portraits happening. But it just so happened that the person had everything set up, ready to go, had the money in my pocket almost, but the person wound up by the time that they got ready, they were at a stylist and everything to get ready for the wedding. By the time that ended, they would have missed the wedding, so they were unable to get the that without missing their cousin's wedding. So that happened, but they were supposed to reschedule for this weekend and they never did. So okay. So anyways, I'm not going to say anything bad, but yeah, hopefully it'll happen. I shoot interiors mostly during the week. The realtors have to let you in. Yeah, so that's what I would expect. That during the week would make sense for that, but events would be Saturday. Well, Rick, I appreciate you conversating with me. I appreciate everybody that's been here listening, and I'm really glad to have back and forth, Rick. I really do appreciate it, but it is kind of getting late at this point for me, and hopefully I can find a better time slot. But I appreciate the back and forth. I appreciate you being here. I hope your back gets to feeling better, man. I know it's pretty hard for anything when your back's hurting. It's such if people have never experienced back pain, they don't realize how debilitating that can be if there's any kind of pinched nerve or anything going on. It just tends to, your back. You do everything with your back at this point, so you just don't realize the extent that it can happen if your back is really actually out in a big way. Well, Rick, thanks for being here. Everybody else, thanks for being here, and I'm assuming hopefully watching this on the replay. If you are here and you've liked this video, be sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. I'm trying to grow this channel. I'm still trying to figure out and transition this channel into something slightly different. So I always think I'm always wanting to experiment and figure out, where I really fit into the market. I really like live streams. I just don't know exactly the best scheduling and whether I should go live more than um, more than once a week, and if I should also broaden out to other topics besides just cameras, because when the camera news is dying, then not dying, but like certain times during the year, it's not very, um, they're not flooding in. So yeah. Hey, okay. Rick said, "Hey, kiss the baby. Nice night." Well, I appreciate it, Rick, and I absolutely will do that. Keep trying. I remember when David Osler had 50 followers. Wow, man. So you saw him back in the day. Um, yeah, I when I got into cameras, he was a really essential figure as far as like watching and learning the lingo and being a part of the community, and always answering questions really well. So I really appreciate him. I think he's seen my channel before in the past when I was doing a lot of different stuff. So it was kind of cool when I found out he watched the channel sometimes. I appreciate it, Rick. I'm getting off of here. Appreciate everybody for watching at whatever time slot you are watching or on the replay. Until next time.